Welcome to Your Unapologetic Life, the podcast. I'm your host, Morgan Barkis, your go-to women's empowerment coach here to help you reclaim your confidence and sparkle after a breakup. I'm excited to share my high-impact free video training. It's called Bounce Back Quick, 5 Confidence Boosters After a Breakup, filled with actionable strategies to help you take control and feel empowered again. To get this free video, visit morganbarkis.com and subscribe to my email list or click the link in the show notes. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Okay, well, I am going to introduce you because I want everyone to know who you are. So you and I connected via the Facebook, have some mutual friends, if you will. I just love that there's women from all over the world connecting and sharing their stories and doing the podcast. I started my podcast the end of 2024, and it's been really fun to connect with women and get them on my podcast. I'm really glad you reached out to me.
Absolutely.
So for the listener who isn't familiar with Victoria, and I'm going to learn a bunch about Victoria as well, she reached out to me. She let me know that she has published a book. It's called Unleash Your Inner Money Goddess, Ancient Female Wisdom for Modern Wealth. She blends ancient mythology stories and goddess archetypes with practical, expert-backed financial strategies to empower women to reclaim their control over their finances like the goddesses they are. I'm going to let you take it from here and say more. What inspired the book? Tell me about the book.
Oh, I would love to. So thank you first for having me on the podcast and giving me this opportunity to talk about the book and the work, because I am so inspired by this. I call it like the divine coincidence that actually led to writing the book. So I was on my own financial journey for the past 7 years when I started learning about managing family finances, learning to save, invest, budget, like all the usual stuff that we learn. And I actually started applying what I learned for the past several years. And I came to this very simple strategy, like long-term strategy for that works for our family, because that's the kind of financial goals that we have that are quite long-term. And I piled all of this information that I got primarily from men, financial experts and investment experts and coaches and mentors. And I piled this up, and there was this point at which I felt like I have so much knowledge gained and experience that I wanted to share it with other women, because all around me and in the virtual space also, the women that I meet and I talk to seem to be very, very confused, very frustrated. They kind of don't know where to start when it comes to managing their money. They kind of know that they have to do it, but keep pushing it and keep delaying it, and like they would prefer somebody else to take care of it for as long as possible, right? But for me, that moment came a long time ago, and I feel like more and more women need to learn to manage their money as soon as possible, because you never know what life, might throw at you, and you need to be prepared to handle your own finances. Even if it's just for building the confidence and the self-empowerment that just make us feel like even goddesses or these queens that we are born to be. So I started sharing. I started my own blog. I started a Facebook group where I share tips and tricks and money quotes and money stories from different resources. And I was attending another financial conference several months ago, and at the same time, I was reading a book about mythology, about God's archetypes and how they play out in our modern lives. And when I was thinking about what else could I do, what other action could I take to bring this knowledge and this financial education to more and more women, the whole idea of the book just came so naturally, like the financial literacy and the stories that we hear about finances and managing money that blended so perfectly well with this book that I was reading that it was like an aha moment, like a spark, like instantly the two things just came together, and I felt like this is what I need to do. This is the book that needs to come to this world. So I use goddess archetypes from three different mythologies. I take three goddesses from Greek mythology, one from Egyptian, and one from Hindu. And by telling their stories, their main myths that show their personality, their behavior, their way of thinking, their mindset, and all of the qualities that they embody, I take those and turn them into financial lessons for each and every woman who reads the story, recognizes herself in these stories, in these goddess archetypes. And I also show the good sides, the bad sides, the shadows, the shadow work, the shadow sides that we need to be aware of, so that we just don't make these mistakes. These shadow sides help us avoid mistakes that, especially in financial terms, can cost a lot. And that's how the book was born. And now I am on this mission to share as much as I can about it.
First of all, I love that you had a light bulb moment where you are seemingly reading about, studying, working with two completely separate things. Like you said, finances are very practical. It's numbers. I mean, you get out a calculator, your numbers add up or they don't. It's very black or white in that respect. And then swing way over to mythology that we don't know if it's true or not. These are stories carried on, carried down. And to see how they click together, I love that. My first question is a more practical one for the listener, the reader. It sounds like you said something about your family. So are you in a family? Is this for both single women in families managing their family finances? Tell me more about who the book is for, and then I have a question after that.
Yeah. So yeah, I am married. I have a spouse and two children. So
Okay.
I manage the family's money. So it's not my own only. Like I bring in some income, my husband brings in income, but we used to live in a way that it wouldn't matter how much money came in, we just would spend it, which we would put aside a little bit just to have in case something happens or an emergency. But we didn't have a holistic strategy. We didn't have a plan. We didn't have our goals, none of that. And we were just letting, life pass day by day until at one point I realized that if we continue like this and we end up at 65-ish when we retire and we rely entirely on our pension system here in Eastern Europe, we would end up living an absolutely miserable life like the ones that I'm seeing right now, our senior people here in the country live, because the pension system is just, you can't rely on it to have a dignified, life after retirement. So that was my warning sign. That was my wake up call. So I manage the family's money, but the book can actually help any woman, regardless if she's in a relationship, if she has a family, a household to take care of, or it's just her and her finances. Because the archetypes that I'm talking about in the book, these are global common features, common patterns of thinking, of behaving, like something that we all share, regardless of where in the world you're located. Mythology to mythology, they differ in the details, but in the essence of the lesson, of the myth, the actual wisdom that's in behind these crazy stories, some of them are really, really crazy, but the truth behind it is the same and valid all across the world.
Victoria, I have a question about the goddesses or the archetypes. Are is the reader looking to figure out which archetype they are? Are they identifying? Are they learning how to embrace each one of them and figure out, like you said, their shadow sides and their good stuff, just like you do almost with like astrology? Or how tell me more about this.
Yeah. So I'm not initially I thought that with the five goddess archetypes that are laid out in the book, every reader would identify herself with one major, archetype for herself. But as you read along, you kind of find qualities and personality traits that resonate with you from each and every goddess. Right. So I have a lot of readers that share with me, oh, at first I read about Athena and I say, I'm exactly like her. I have this and I have this strategic thinking and I like spreadsheets and all of that. Then I turn the page, there comes like the totally opposite archetype of Lakshmi from Hindu mythology, who is all about flow and abundance and ease and letting things come to you, which is like totally the opposite of Athena, but you can still find, personality traits and qualities that resonate with you. So, and the same happens with every other goddess that you read in the book. The thing is, and that's the conclusion that I came to, is that every woman has a unique blend of goddess archetypes within her. So you might have one that's your primary archetype that you resonate most with, that you recognize yourself most in, but you will also find bits and pieces from the other goddesses that you also carry in yourself. And that's the beauty of it, because this creates an absolutely unique and non-duplicable mix for each and every woman that reads the book. And this is really, really beautiful. So the inner money goddess that I'm talking about in the book is actually the one that lives in you, which might be a blend of these goddesses. And there are hundreds of other goddesses that, if you're interested in, you can explore and find, more wisdom in them that you can bring into your life.
I love that. All right, so part of it is almost appreciating their stories and how they are. And like you said, maybe avoiding some of the pitfalls or the shadow sides and
Yeah.
embracing the really powerful sides. Do you have a more concrete example of someone in your life or you where you saw the goddess or you saw the archetype and you've watched it play out in her life, or you've helped her in a way to tie that not just into her life, into her finances, for specifically?
Yeah. The strongest example that I can give is with myself,
Okay.
because when I was writing the book, I totally recognized myself in Athena. So she is the long-term player. She is the strategic one. She was the goddess of wisdom in ancient Greece. She was all about planning and pulling the resources that she needs. So she's very crafty, and I recognize myself in her primarily because I love strategizing. I love planning. I come from 20 years in marketing as my background. So it was all about building marketing strategies and advertising campaigns and all of that. So I fully resonated with her. But then I realized that while I enjoy building spreadsheets and keeping track of every dollar that comes in and goes out, like I had the most complicated spreadsheet financial that you could ever imagine. But then I recognize in myself that I totally lack what other goddesses like Lakshmi that I mentioned, that she's all about flow, letting abundance come to you and do it in a more feminine way, like building long-term wealth in the feminine energy and energetics of dealing with money and managing money. So when this like occurred to me, I decided I need to find more balance. So I need to put one of the archetypes in more balance with the others so I could feel more wholesome, more complete, and more into my feminine energy. Because while Athena is a female goddess, she is very masculine. She participates in the wars, and she participates in battles. I mean, she's very action, all about action and male energetics. But Lakshmi is the opposite, and I recognize, okay, I need to bring in some more of that. So I started doing some practices like more mindfulness, more getting into the flow, so that I could unlock these traits in me. And I can tell you, since I started this work with these goddess archetypes, a lot has changed for me. And even not only in financial terms, but also in the way that I perceive my body and that I accept my body as it is. There, I don't know if we want to go in this direction, but there's just so many
Yeah.
things that this can unlock for you once you start working with these archetypes.
I love this. In your book, are you describing these archetypes for someone like me who knows nothing about them? I mean, the names I'm recognizing, and I don't understand their stories. I don't know, like you said, their shadow sides and in the battles that they may or may not have been a part of, or how they came to be who they
Mm-hmm.
are. Are you just like telling their stories in the book as well?
Yes, yes. So each chapter is separate for each goddess, and it starts with how she got born into this world, her major myth, what she's most famous for. That's how we want to put it. But I also add in a real life example of how somebody embodied this archetype energy and put it in action and lived from it. So I have my own story for Athena, but I have four more stories from other people, other women who clearly carry this energy and exemplify these goddesses. Maybe they didn't know it. They don't think of themselves like that. But I find these traits in these stories, in these women's stories, and I also share them for anyone to recognize, the common patterns. And I also talk about each goddess qualities, a list of her shadow sides, and also I have included like a list of affirmations that kind of go with the goddess archetype that you recognize that's your primary one to have.
Speaking of stories, I'd like to hear more about you. I am looking at you for the first time in front of me. I'm seeing this woman with this wild, amazing hair. I find out you're living in Bulgaria and speak impeccable English. I'm over
Oh.
here, don't speak any other languages. And so I'm like, this woman is smart. She's accomplished. She's wild. She's organized. And tell me more about you. I born and raised in Bulgaria. How old are you now? Like, tell me how you got to where you are. More of the personal side of your story, if you're willing to go there with me.
Sure, I'd love to. So, yeah, I was born and raised in Bulgaria, and I still live here. Have a spouse. We've been together for quarter of a century now. That's so many years. We got two beautiful daughters, a home, some real estate investments. So, as I said, I come from a background of 20 years in marketing. I started in the corporate office setting. I became general manager of marketing and advertising before I turned 30, something like this. Don't remember. It was a long time ago. But I remember a friend of mine who was my boss at my previous job say to me, "You're like the youngest person I've ever seen come to this level of, this career path." So then I realized I'm not really born to be in a corporate setting. So I moved to freelancing and started working from home like long before it became a thing, long before COVID and home office became like the standard way of how we do business. And that was in 2011 or 2012, a long, long time ago. And yeah, I've been in marketing since then, working with clients from all over the world until this point in my life came when I found this new passion for sharing financial literacy and having these financial education classes and seminars with people around me and with with the local community centers where I give lectures. I help people understand more about money. And there was one very interesting example. I had this seminar. It was like a 2-hour seminar, and I tried to put in as much information as I could. And it was all basic information for me, really, because you can't really go into much detail and investment strategies for a couple of hours talking. And this woman that attended it, after the seminar, she came to me and said, Viki, I thought I knew about money. I thought I had financial literacy, but what you just shared is like a whole new level of understanding for me. And I was like, oh my gosh. And this is what like I consider like basic things. So that made me realize that the amount of knowledge that I've gained and the practical side of actually doing what I've learned have put me in a place where I can safely say that I can teach others. And I'm not saying I'm a financial expert. That's not my job. I don't have like a banking or investment background, but I know much more than people around me, and I want to share that so that they can start on their journey.
The journey part, as I'm listening to your story, I'm thinking, can you imagine both of us, 40 years ago or whatever, how old ever you are? I think about when I was much younger. I was in my teens probably, and I'm almost 45 now. And I think about what I wanted to be when I grow up. And I thought I wanted to help people. I had a teacher that said, I could see you, being a counselor or something where you're working with people. And I always had that on my heart. And I feel like I was drawn to working with people. And I ended up, so many different journeys, different careers like you. I've corporate America, fitness, sales and operations training. I've done a lot of different careers, always service oriented because I like people and making sure that they have what they need. And if I could go back to the girl I was at 15, 16, when people are like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I knew I wanted to help people. I would have never guessed that at almost 45, I would have started a coaching business to work with women who are coming out of a breakup, and because of my own experiences and coming back like the phoenix basically, and learning to be brighter and stronger than I was before, and really owning my own life and my strength and this, that, and the other. I say all that to say, did you know, 30, 40 years ago what you wanted to be when you grew up? And are you almost like amazed that like now you're a published author and you're speaking on, did you always know what's going to happen? You just didn't know how? Or did this like come out of nowhere and you're just like, how did I even get here? And I love it.
No, that's super interesting because a couple of weeks ago, I actually thought about this. Okay, where did this all originate? Like, how did these things come together for me? I never expected that. In fact, it turns out I have been preparing myself for this moment. And let me start when I was in high school. In high school was the first time that I fell in love with psychology. I wanted to learn psychology. I absolutely loved it. These were like my favorite classes: psychology, philosophy, morals, and all of that. But life led me to getting into the American University here in Bulgaria, where I studied, first couple of years, it's just general subject. You take classes that you just like, and then you choose your major. So I chose business administration. And within business administration, I found out that I'm pretty good at accounting, which was like so, so interesting, so strange. I never thought I was good with math or something, but I had great accounting classes. Then I took other financial classes like corporate taxes, investing, all of that. But I never thought that I will ever do anything with it. My other specialization within the business administration major was marketing. And when I think about it, marketing was like the closest that I could get to, psychology in practice within the market and how to present services and businesses in a way that resonates with people who are ready to buy that service or product. So I had the psychology part there within marketing, and I chose this as my career. But I also had this financial part on the other side that I never thought that I would ever put into use. And all of a sudden, 20 years later, I'm also 23 almost. They come together into this financial literacy meets psychology because archetypes, actually, there is a whole branch of psychology that's called archetypal psychology. It stems from Carl Jung's psychology with archetypes, but this particular one is a little bit different. But I loved it. I by the way, found that pretty recently. After I wrote the book, then I realized there is a whole branch in psychology based on archetypes, and I loved it. And now I'm all into learning everything about it.
Isn't that interesting how when you're younger, there is like something in your heart that, I guess for me, I used to be frustrated with the saying, trust the process, because I think, no, I want a crystal ball.
No.
I want to know exactly what I'm supposed to do, when I'm supposed to do it. Why can't I just have the path laid out for me and then I can just follow it? And now I've had so many twists and turns and different careers and life experiences, and I've moved a lot. And I can look back now and go, and every single one of those steps brought me to where I am now. And there were many sliding door moments in my life where I could have gone this way or that way. And it's like in my heart, I always knew I wanted to do what I'm doing and serve women and be a coach. And it's really cool. Like for you too, your education. I mean, I got my degree in therapy, and so I knew, again, I wanted to understand psychology and therapy, and I just didn't use it in the quote unquote practical sense or traditional sense. And yet it's something that was always on your heart your whole life. And then you end up, it's just cool how our lives unfold. And I'm sure your life will continue to unfold, and opportunities will continue to happen where you're serving women and helping them in some way. It's really interesting how no matter where we are, no matter where we started, somehow we know the path. We just have to trust.
Yeah. And I remember when I was a very little child, like probably 6, 7, that was when I first came across mythology. That was the first time I read these stories, and I loved them. I was immersed, especially in Greek and ancient Egyptian mythology, especially with Egyptians. I was so fascinated with them. I would read every book that I could get my hands on about ancient Egypt from beginning to end at, a single sit. And I always joke that probably some of my past lives I must have lived in ancient Egypt, because I don't know, it's not that close to me. I mean, Greece is just a few kilometers away. I can get to there in a couple of hours, but Egypt, I mean, it's not even that close. But I've always felt this pull to this mythology and this setting. And years later, I come back to this passion of mine since I was a child, and it's so beautiful. I'm so grateful of the way life has brought these events together for me to unfold, the next path. And at this point in my life, I just learned to enjoy and have trust in the process, as you said. Just have trust that everything will unfold the way it is supposed to go for you, and there could be no better way.
And are you going to go to Egypt? I say my parents visited Chicago fairly recently, and we went to a museum, the Field Museum here in Chicago, and there was a ancient Egyptian section, and there were literally mummies. They had like down in the very basement. You could go through, and you could almost feel, because there were other sections that were very interesting. They have the dinosaurs, and they have ancient China, and they have, it's very interesting, and they have the gems room and the jade room, and you can
Mm.
almost, you can't touch them, but you can almost feel the energy of these different stones and where they came from. And there was something about ancient Egypt that we didn't have a lot of time to explore properly, and there were a lot of people, so we couldn't read everything. But I'm imagining you have to get to Egypt at some point, or visit a museum that is very heavy in its ancient Egypt history.
Yeah, we went to the Louvre last year with my older daughter. She had this school trip and she signed me for it as well. So we went to Paris. So we went to the Louvre and we enjoyed like their ancient Egypt section. It was beautiful. We have a lot of pictures there. But visiting Egypt and seeing the Valley of the Kings and all of the Luxor, Memphis, all of these ancient sites, it's on my list, like one of the top things that I want to do as soon as possible. I don't know when. Life will lead the way, but it is on my wish list.
Your story, my story. I have a niece and nephew that are coming into their young adulthood. I feel like when you follow your passions and you think about things that you're so interested in and you could talk about endlessly and research endlessly, and it's not even about getting paid for it, doesn't even feel like work. It's something that you feel so passionate about. That's how I felt about relationships and human behavior, and it sounds like you're turning that plus the mythology, and that you just follow your passions in your life. um Not only will unfold the way it's supposed to, you also get to serve other people. I think that is
Yeah.
just really cool how you've turned your passions into something that will serve women. And where can women find you, like you, follow you? Where would you like them to connect with you about this and learn more about what you do?
Yeah, well, I would invite everyone who is interested in my work to come visit me at my website. It's evemma.eu, so evemma.eu. I know it doesn't speak about goddesses or doesn't have my name in the domain, but because it's named after my two daughters, so I decided to have their names on my domain. I can be found in Facebook if you just search for Victoria Chervenkova. I know it's a little bit hard to to type it in the search bar, but you can also find the Facebook group pretty easily. It's called Money Master Moms. And in it, we have women from all over the world where we share about money, relationship with money, money stories, my blog content, and a lot more. So yeah, these are the main ways that I can be gotten in touch with.
Perfecto. And I will put your website in the show notes so folks can find you.
Thank you.
And to leave, I would like, for me, my motto in life is, if you don't try, you won't know. I am a risk taker. I gratefully land on my feet most of the time. I just feel like, if I never want to wonder if in my life, what would be something you would want to listen, or you would leave with a woman who's listening right now? What would you want your motto in life, or something that you just, a thought that you want to leave her with?
I would like to leave her with the thought that there is a goddess within each and every woman inside, and that goddess wants to be awakened. So let her rise and rise with her. So that's all I want women to remember, their goddess nature.
That is beautiful. And thank you for sending me the ebook. I will be reading it. If you want the ebook, contact Viki and she will get it for you. Thank you so much for being here. You're beautiful, powerful, and I'm really glad you reached out to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Morgan. I also have, at the end of the book, you'll see a link to a quiz that you can take. It's 7 questions that will get you more clarity on which goddess archetype is your main archetype. And I can also see, this is something that I thought of this week. I don't know if I shared this with you, or I don't think so. But I would love to gift the first 20 listeners or your subscribers who reach out to me and ask for the book. I would love to give it for free to them if they just email me. We can put that in the notes, or you can announce that. If it resonates with you, I'm happy to do it.
Thanks for tuning in to Your Unapologetic Life. Be sure to share this episode with at least one woman in your life who could use a confidence boost. Don't forget to claim your free video training. It's called Bounce Back Quick, 5 confidence boosters after a breakup, by visiting morganbarkis.com and subscribing to my email list, or clicking the link in the show notes. Join me for more resources and learn how to book a discovery call to see if my 90-day coaching program is right for you. You've got this, girl. Let your unapologetic life begin.